Okay, welcome to the first Fahrenheit Performance podcast. I've been meaning to do this for quite a few months now, and it's supposed to be a podcast about bike fit and cycling and triathlon and endurance sports in general. But I think today's podcast is a bit more personal because something happened to me 1 month ago today that I wanted to talk to Dr. Foo about, and he's going to be my first guest. So Dr. Foo, Jen, I think you like to be called.
That's right. Thank you, Martin. Dr. Foo just sounds very old.
Yeah, he's a SEA Games triathlete or duathlete. He's a very good runner, and what we're going to talking today about is running. So why don't you introduce yourself?
Sure thing. Yeah. So thanks for having me on this show. Really great to be here. I do mainly triathlon, so those people who know me better will say that I'm more of a duathlon because I can't swim for nuts. I do like running a lot more than cycling, and cycling to me is just to get to the running part for most of my races. But this year I've been doing a bit more runs, and I think I did the stand chart the same time that you did your half. So here to exchange notes and we'll find out a bit more about what happened to Martin.
Yeah, so I guess I'll give a bit of an intro to what happened. I used to do a lot of half marathons back when I was living in America. I guess 2002 through 2010-ish, maybe 20 half marathons. So I know the distance is my favorite distance. I've done a few marathons, never gone quite to plan, but half marathons have always been quite good. Not an issue. I used to be able to run at any given Sunday 145, 140, 150-ish.
It's very impressive, Martin.
This is like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but and I came back to the Stand Chart half marathon this year for my first race in a long time. But I was well prepared. I did 13 weeks structured training with both Metasport and with Garmin Run Club. So we had a plan. I was religiously going to training. I was doing the long runs. Everything was going fine. Race day. My plan was just to go under 2 hours, so which is like a 5:40 pace, I think. Under 2 hours. I had planned. I had nutrition. I drank at every water station, but did the first 10K in 52 minutes. And then something happened. I apparently went 15K and I just woke up in the medical tent and I have no idea what happened.
That is really scary, Martin.
Yeah, so I'm here with a doctor
Yeah.
to understand what sort of go step by step what happened in the body and what I can do to prevent this from happening again. So let me just do a little bit more of a breakdown because I was wearing all the gadgets, right? I had a heart rate monitor on, I had my watch obviously was doing pace, I had a core temperature body sensor, which ironically I am the Singapore distributor for. But
which is actually a very good testimony to how useful it might be, because looking at the data, like we'll talk about it later, but definitely very useful information to have to dissect what happened.
Yeah, and so I have all of that. On my watch, I knew I had to go under 540, so I had on my screen current pace and average pace, and that's what I was looking at. I wasn't really looking at heart rate. I wasn't really looking at core temperature. I was going to use that at the end of the race to analyze how I did, but I never got to the end of the race. Right. So the scary thing is, the really scary thing is I can't get my head around is I didn't seem to have any symptoms of what happened. Yeah. I was happily chugging along, running at between 5 and 5:20 pace, which is a little bit faster than the 5:40, but it's not like I hadn't run that speed before. Yeah. And the next thing I knew, it was like waking up in a hotel room where you're awake, but you don't really know where you are. And then I was looking around, it was still dark, and I could hear runners and I could hear stuff, and then it was I was in the medical tent, basically.
Yeah. As you're saying to look at the pictures of yourself running, you were really cheerful there.
Yeah, so I bought the pictures.
Yeah.
This picture is me basically at almost where I collapsed, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't even know if I collapsed. So another part of the story is I don't have a scratch on my body. So I don't think I didn't like timber, just pass out. I must have sat down and sort of called for help or something. Yeah. I don't know what happened, but the race photos, I have one race photo where I'm running exactly past the medical tent that I woke up in.
Yeah, I
So
think it was one of the
I
previous
don't know
ones,
what happened. So maybe let me go through a little bit of the data with you, and then we can sort of analyze. You can sort of talk me through it. So I have heart rate versus core temperature,
Yep.
and I have core temperature and heart rate versus pace, right? So what I was saying before is I didn't really feel lightheaded, I didn't feel giddy, I didn't really even feel tired. I was just running along, and then next thing I know I was in the tent. So my average heart rate, if I look at my Garmin, was 162, but that includes the time where I was lying on the ground or whatever. So if I look at just the time when I was running, my average heart rate was 171,
Right.
which my max heart rate is 183, which is heavily into zone 5 territory, which
Yeah.
in itself is a warning sign. But when I was actually running, I didn't feel like I was pushing that hard.
Yeah. But I think it's a combination, and I think you can see from the data that everything ties together quite nicely. The fact that you said that like you were running at zone 5, and with that pace that you maintain, like I think you didn't mention as well that you're listening to some pretty upbeat music
Yeah,
the
so-
whole way, which actually could affect your perception of how fast you were running.
Yeah, I
zone
guess-
5 for a half marathon, like for about an hour and 30 minutes, definitely seems a bit much to me. But
Yeah, so I actually, when I train, I normally listen to podcasts. And for this one, I'd made myself a playlist, and it was like, Nirvana, Smells Like Teen Spirit, it was Eminem, it was Enter Sandman, it was sort of this pumping, sort of go-getting music. And maybe I was just running, didn't realize how fast I was running.
yeah, it definitely has been shown that music has an effect on how hard you perceive certain efforts. So not saying that you shouldn't listen to any of these things that Martin just brought up, but just a word of advice to be probably practice with it before like doing it for the race, and not switching from a podcast to super upbeat music
Yeah.
straight away. So that could be one thing that could complete the puzzle.
So of the things that I was measuring,
Yeah.
my average heart rate was 171 over 183, which is zone 5, right, for an hour and 15 minutes. My core temperature reached 39.5, which in itself, it seems high, but I trained quite high. I think 40 I would consider to be high.
Yeah.
My pace, I was aiming to get at sub 2 hours, I needed 540. My average pace was 524, so not that far off. And yeah, apart from that, I don't know what I would do differently. I guess having the heart rate up at 171 is equivalent of having your foot on the gas in like third gear
Yeah.
for an hour,
That's right.
and never changing to fourth gear and just redlining the car,
Yeah.
and then after a while it will just
Yeah, I think I would have probably started a more conservative pace, at probably like the target pace of 540 for the first half, and see how that held up like towards the second half. But again, there's no perfect way of running a half marathon. And I think what you might want to change in the future is to look at your heart rate zone on the watch as opposed to the pace. There could be some days whereby like the pacing can be very different. Could be the temperature, could be the environment, which can affect your heart rate. So the pace that you think you're running at could well not correlate with your usual heart rate. So you could be pushing yourself a lot harder on your heart than the pace that you think you're doing it at. So that's one other thing I'll look at in the watch for the next time for.
Yeah, well,
future
I've now
races.
set a zone 5 alarm on my watch. So once I hit 165,
Back off.
which is my beginning of zone 5, my watch
Yeah.
is going to start shaking, and if it shakes for too long, I can stay in zone 5 for a little bit, but
Yeah.
not for very long,
Sure,
right?
but I mean, if it's a 5K race, like nothing wrong with being in zone 5 the whole way. But for a half marathon, I think.
Or even
it's
10K, right?
Yeah,
I,
yeah, exactly.
I breezed through my 10K at 52 minutes,
Yeah.
and then it was
well on
just...
target for a sub 2. So
So tell me, moral of the story is, I was in the medical tent. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what was going on. I couldn't remember anything. I couldn't remember what happened to me. I barely remembered my phone number. I barely remembered anybody's phone numbers. And then they took me to hospital. I spent a day and a half in hospital. Then they gave me 8 bags of saline. So half liters or 4 liters of saline.
Yes. Yeah.
They ran blood test on me when I got into hospital, and they said my creatine level in my kidney was 220.
Wow, that's high.
Okay, so that's high, right?
Yeah.
I was taking protein and creatine supplements before, like leading up as training, as recovery, but they said that wouldn't have even.
No,
that
wouldn't
was
have.
nothing. That was nothing to do with
Yeah.
it. 24 hours later, they took my blood again. My creatine level was 110, and
Thank goodness.
and then I discharged myself after a day and a half of just staring at the wall in hospital, and I did my blood work on the Wednesday, which is 2 days after that, and my creatine level was below 90, which apparently is where you want it to be.
Yeah, I mean that's the measure of how healthy your kidney is. Like the high levels of creatine just suggest that you might have some kidney injury. So that's one measure that we have to look at. Like for some athletes who are losing a lot of sweat, losing a lot of water, like from sweating. I remember that day was particularly humid. I mean, it wasn't hot per se. It was actually a cool morning. But I felt that it was a lot more humid than usual. So, I mean, even though that you say that you drank at every single...
I drank at every drink stop, and
Yeah.
I even threw some water on my head.
Right.
I was wearing a visor, not a cap.
Yeah.
It wasn't even nothing crazy. I was wearing a singlet, not a long sleeve shirt.
Because having that high creatine levels would suggest that you're probably under hydrating in some ways. I mean, I'm sure they checked like the rhabdomyolysis too, because when you have muscle damage, that can affect the kidney. So I don't think it would have been. I mean, if they told you like they did the whole battery of tests and nothing else was abnormal, it most likely suggests that
they didn't say they did. I have all the information, but they only said the creatine level was high and there was a kidney impairment. They didn't say it was damaged. It was like currently it's not optimal. Keep drinking water and you'll be back to normal.
Yeah. Have you done a sweat test before to gauge how much sweat you lose?
No, that's what I wanted to do.
I know like another athlete of a friend of mine who loses a lot of sweat and he really suffers in temperatures like ours in this country. So that's probably one thing to take into consideration. Even though like you drink at every station, it might not actually be enough.
And if you look at the photos, I'm just like
drenched.
I'm wet, right?
Drenched.
And
Yeah.
4:30 in the morning.
Right, this is not a triathlon. You should be that wet.
So I had like 6 doctors in the ER. That was the rotations, and they would see me once every hour or so.
Sure.
And there was one lady that said that heat exhaustion caused my muscles to vascularly dilate, and when that happened, the body prioritized cooling over everything else. So blood went to the skin, which might have caused my blood to drain from my brain or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what that process is and if that's...
And I mean, if I bring back to the chart again, I think the one with the temperature, I think you can notice here that your core temperature was going up and up and up and up and up and up.
Yep.
And that sort of like peaking at about
39.5 was my max.
There's no cutoff to say, there's no absolute cutoff to say that 40 of the 9.5 is it's a bad kind of temperature to keep at, but it's all relative. It depends on like how acclimatized you are. It depends like your body physiology. So, but it's very telling that it was going up all the way, and that's when you started to drop, your pace started to falter a bit. Like
So this one here, this blue line is pace, and that green line is core temperature. So once I reached 39.5, I was very consistent with my pacing, and then suddenly it's like a crazy
flutter, we call it. It's not a heart rhythm, but it looks like one from there. So I think what happened was that your body was telling you that like you're too hot, like you're overheating, and the only way that you can do that is actually to shift some of the heat out into the peripheries. So when you're cold, normally like the body drains the blood from your peripheries to go to the central, the core body, to maintain the heat there. But when it's hot, the reverse happens. So the body would shift the blood out to the peripheries, and that's potentially what has happened, is that there was this massive drop in the amount of blood going to the peripheries, and then the blood that goes to the head, the cerebral blood, actually drop in the flow, and that might affect like your cognition. So it's quite telling sometimes if you are experiencing heat exhaustion or heat stroke. People start to slur in their speech, they start to have like weird thoughts, they kind of hallucinate.
I had a lot of weird thoughts.
I think you're running half marathons. People will question why you think that.
No. When I woke up, I was like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
You know, where am I? And all I'm thinking is,
Yeah.
can I finish? And then I said, no, screw that. I'm not going to even try finishing. And
Yeah.
then, and then so let's just say I focus on heart rate and core temperature next time I'm running, and I see it 171 and 39 again. What do? Do I just back off the pace? Do I pour more water? Do I drink more water? Do I take off my singlet? What do I do to cool down?
Probably a combination. You can cut holes in your vest too, if you wanted to. That's another way of doing things. But I mean, you would probably take it in a combination. Like if you see that like your temperature is going up, and I think it's all related. Like how fast you go will affect your heart rate. How fast you go will affect your core temperature too. So by cutting down your pace, I think if you look for any sudden, it won't drop very suddenly, but you notice that it might trend downwards. I mean, that's what you're aiming for. And if you're holding the zone 4, depending on what target heart rate you're aiming for, you try and adjust things bit by bit, as opposed to massively don't down like 1 liter of water. The next 8 stations you think that you're overheating. So it usually takes like a gradual process. So
you're saying, so what you said there was, I should say in zone 4. Are you saying that zone 5 for a whole half marathon was not a good idea?
It would be a bit hard to go for a zone 5. I mean,
I almost made it. I got 15 kilometers
You did. Yeah, very close. So I think if you're in a colder country, maybe you have actually pushed your way through with that upbeat music of yours. But but it's, I mean, everyone's different, so it's hard to kind of say that like maybe zone 4 might be a better range for you at the start. And if you're used to training at that level, if you're doing zone 5, so like 3/4 of a half during your tempo sessions, your race simulation, then I don't see a reason why you can't do a zone 5 for the actual race day. But being able to kind of be certain before the race that this is what you're aiming for, and also what you can actually achieve before the race will give you a lot more confidence that you can hold it for the race. So that's one thing I would look into for your next race cycle.
Okay, and what so one thing that really bugs me about the whole situation is that I don't remember basically what happened between about kilometer 13 to kilometer when I woke up. Right? That doesn't exist in my memory banks anymore, right? What is that a preservation thing for your brain? What's going on with that?
So we were initially talking about this, and we were comparing it to a hard disk drive, like whether it was writing like stuff, or like it just stopped writing, or like or it erased some of the stuff that you wrote. So I don't think we ever know what exactly happened. Like it could have been that you were just not logging stuff in, so you were in a survival mode. Like it's not important for you to retain any memory. Like it's really like body's telling you that like this is I'm maintaining just a basic amount of like essentials like your breathing and like just being able to kind of get going.
Body has really prioritized other things over memory because some of the race photos are in that like grey zone where I don't remember. And obviously I'm running and I'm smiling and I've got my peace sign up and I'm doing fine.
I'm looking at that. I can't tell. I wouldn't know that you're in distress if I saw those pictures of yours again.
So I just don't like. When I woke up, when you go out and you have that one drunk friend. And he doesn't know where he is, and he doesn't know who he is, and
there's always one.
and he wants you should put him in a taxi to go home already. And I was that guy when I woke up, and I was like, I looked at the medic, I don't know who she is, and they're like, where am I? And then she says, you don't know where you are? And I'm like, yeah, where am I? And she said, oh, you're in the medical tent. I'm like, oh, okay. So how did I get here? And they said, you don't know how you got here? I said, yeah, I don't know. And she said, oh, you passed out, and then we took you here. And I'm like, how? They wheeled you here with a wheelchair, and I'm like, what? I don't even remember getting on a wheelchair. And they said, I was talking to the people that were on the wheelchair. So, and I don't have a scratch on me. So something happened. I must maybe lay on the ground, and then another runner maybe flagged down the medics, and then they came back with a wheelchair, and then they put me in the wheelchair and wheeled me back to the medical tent, and then I lay down.
And if you look at your pace too, like you were actually slowing down, so it could be signs suggesting that your body is actually forcing you to slow down. You might not remember it, but you were probably slowing down, and people probably noticed.
Well, I do have a pace chart. Where is it? I do have a pace. I think that the last 4Ks were all over the place. I was like 5, 5:10, 5:10, 5:20, 5:10, 5:10, 5:10, and then 5:40, 5:50, and then 6 minutes. And then it's like
I mean that's pretty much your body telling you that like this is too much for me. I need to slow you down and
Yeah.
to kind of like get you to walk and lower your heat, body temperature a bit more.
So physiologically, my body was too hot, right?
Yes.
And that's because my heart was pumping too hard.
Too hard, probably dehydrated. It's usually a combination of factors. And I think it just came to a point whereby the body felt that like it can't, and you're not slowing down, you were actually going at zone 5 the whole time.
Yeah.
So I mean, if you actually slowed down, maybe like the body would have like, okay, this guy's slowing down, they might kind of have some chance to keep him alive. But yeah, pushing zone 5 for that period of time and not slowing down, I think the body kind of knows that this is not going to cut it out.
Okay.
It's not sustainable like for the whole 2 hours.
Okay, so then obviously my heart rate was too high, which has caused my body to overheat. I'm probably like 5 or 10 kilos bigger than I should be, which is an insulating factor. Maybe if I was skinnier, I wouldn't overheat as much. Or,
You're too harsh on yourself, Martin.
I don't know. This is just my inside voice coming out. And then, so I guess if I backed off a little bit, or if I threw more water on myself, or
Drank more water.
drank more water,
Yeah.
it would have cooled me down a little bit better.
Yeah,
But
because
the
they were
other-
giving out some ice chips, if I remember correctly. At
Not,
the race. Not
I
for
never
the
got
half.
that. I
Okay,
never got
right.
high shifts.
Oh, sorry.
I got
the marathon privilege.
Yeah, sorry. there was water at every aid station,
Sure.
which is every 3K or something.
Right,
There was 100 plus at every other aid station,
right.
and then there was one gel station that I remember. I didn't even eat the gel,
Right.
but I did have a big bag of amino vital energy,
Yeah, the gels.
and I had some precision fuel chews,
Right.
which I had been eating, which would give me carbs. So I wasn't like under like I wasn't unfueled.
Yeah, for sure.
So
It does sound like it's more the hydration and the temperature that was the two possible reasons why things spiraled out of control.
And then the temperature was driven by
The metabolism, which
the
is
heart
the
rate.
heart rate, yeah, the
and
effort.
the
of
heart rate
doing
was
it.
driven by the pace.
Yes, so which is why it's all related.
Okay.
And not drinking enough water doesn't help to cool you down because like a furnace is just burning. And
But so the other thing that really bugs me is that if I was running without a watch and I didn't have any of this information, because luckily I have all the information, we can
Yeah.
go back in time and look at
yeah,
it, right?
It's great to have
If
so
I was
much.
one of those, those
Run by feel.
yeah, run by field people, and they just go out and run, right?
Yeah.
I really didn't have any, I don't remember having any symptoms. I don't remember having lightheaded. I don't remember feeling tired. I don't
Right.
remember anything. All I remember was running along, and then, like that drunk guy, I just woke up the next day in the medical tent, right?
Yeah.
So, how do you consolidate that? How do you reconcile that?
Yeah, which is why I think people like doing a half marathon or a marathon without training is a really, I wouldn't say reckless, but not the wisest of ideas like to do that. So I think having that proper training and knowing what your body is accustomed to, and going into the race, like when you run by feel, like these guys are probably like have been running for a while. They know what kind of pace they can keep, and they have enough experience to tell if they can maintain that for the rest of the race. I'm not sure how much a part music has to play in that. If they're listening to like upbeat music all this while during the training, then maybe
Yeah,
like
maybe.
something
I
they can
just
get used to.
remember
Yeah.
when just certain songs came on, I was really grooving and thinking this is awesome, and I was running along.
Yeah.
And then in the back of my mind, I think it did contribute. Like
Sure.
I was probably running a bit faster than I normally did because my rate of perceived exertion was lower, and I was running a bit harder than I normally would because I felt better.
Yeah.
And then it's a race, so like
Right.
who jogs a race, right? You're there to
No, I
you're
agree.
there to go as hard as you can
Yeah.
for as much training as you have,
It's a
right?
comeback as well. Like,
It was a comeback. It was 13 years since the Chicago Marathon,
exactly.
and and it just all ended up
There's,
in.
I think so many factors that played a part in like how like you managed to really convince yourself, that push yourself so hard. I think there's a lot of that like mind over matter thing that can happen sometimes. But you're right. I think sometimes it's really hard to predict what like will happen, whether or not like you remember any of these things, and whether you actually feel like yourself like actually potentially going to collapse or lose consciousness. Sometimes it's hard to tell. I think given the adrenaline, given a lot of things are happening, so a lot of distraction like during the race.
Okay, so as a doctor, as a scale of 1 to 10, right? 0 being on top of the world, waking up in 100% alive, and 10 being dead, right? Where do you think I was in that scale? Was I like a 6, or was this not was this just scary but not actually super bad?
I would think that you're very lucky to be here today, Martin.
So it was that bad then, huh?
Yeah,
not as bad as a heart attack, I would think. But
Yeah, for sure, not as bad as heart attack, but heat strokes are actually quite a common killer, like in a lot of races and competitions overseas.
So like a 7.
Yeah, probably that'll be there.
Because when I was in the medical tent,
Yeah.
all I wanted to do was lie down, and I wanted to put my legs up, and because when you go to first aid training, they say you elevate the legs so the blood can flow to the heart, and they said no, don't lie down, you might pass out. And I'm like, no. And that's all I wanted to do was lie down.
Yeah, I think everybody has a different way of like looking at you, like I'm not quite sure what's going on for you.
Yeah, and I must say, as good as well intentioned the medical tent was, they were woefully unprepared for me.
Right.
They were ready for sprains and sprains and
Right.
cramps, and I just sat there until the real ambulance arrived. My blood pressure when I was in the tent was 90/60.
Oh, okay.
That's
Could be higher.
they said that was
some
low.
infusion.
They panicked a little bit,
Yeah.
and then when I was stable in the hospital, it was 120/60.
Right, yeah, that's the range that we usually aim for, which is why you probably had 8 bags of IV fluids to get you back up again.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, like you're saying, on top of the temperature, like probably definitely a source of dehydration, like that could contribute to why the blood pressure was so low. It could be a cause of
So
that.
I did train with a bottle on a belt.
Mm.
I didn't race with it because during training it always jiggles around and it's like
just
really
elastic
uncomfortable.
to hold on to.
And I thought,
Yeah.
oh, why do I need 750 mils of water when I'm over in
Yeah.
2 hours? But maybe I should have run with it.
Yeah,
Right.
potentially. Well, never too late now. Now that you know what's going on for the next future races.
If there will be a next future
I'm
race,
sure there will
who
be.
knows,
Nothing is
right?
stopping you.
Okay, so I think I understand. So with the doctor said that my muscles dilated, is that something that happens when you're hot?
Yeah, when you're hot. Yeah.
So what exactly is happening? Is your blood vessels bursting or what?
No, you're just opening up.
Okay.
So blood vessels constrict or they dilate. So depending on the temperature and what you're trying to attain. So when it's cold, the body temperature would be mainly conserved in the core.
Yep.
So the blood is being pushed back to the core, and the blood vessels in the hands and the peripheries constrict to push the blood vessels, the blood back to the heart and the
Yep.
core. And the reverse happens when it's cold. I mean, when it's hot. That the blood gets flushed out. The vessels dilate, they open up,
Yep.
so the blood gets pushed out to the peripheries.
So that's what she meant when she said that all the blood went to the skin to try to cool me down.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Yeah.
then it sort of drained and
Yeah, that could be a trigger. There's a certain level that you just hit, and the body just tells you that no, it's gonna shut you down, and it's the only way to do it is taking the blood away from you.
oh, maybe I should do a 10K next time.
No, I think you should do it to 1K, it's zone 4. That's the aim. And with a lot of hydration, I think a sweat test definitely will be helpful to kind of figure out how much to consume.
You know, my one of my friends told me that I should finish the last 6Ks.
Yeah,
I think I should.
You
I think I
should.
should go back to that tent, which is right at the Ascot Hotel,
Yeah, I'm sure
and then
it's-
run to the stadium and then just do it so I can get it.
And there's always that meme about like, if I collapse, please stop my Garmin.
Well, no. Okay, there's one more thing that I was thinking. You know, I do a lot of Instagram, and there's always this motivational, like, I don't stop when I'm tired. I'm stop when I'm done, and
you're dead.
Yeah, I know. And then there's another one that was going through my brain when I was running. It was like, you do the work, and you don't stop when you're tired. You stop to see what you're capable of, right?
Yeah.
Well, I guess this is what I was capable of, because I didn't stop, and I ended up in the medical tent. So
Yeah, I think all these quotes and phrases are really out there to motivate, but sometimes it can be taken a bit over the top. And I mean, as athletes, you always push yourselves, but there are some occasions whereby you kind of know that there's a limit, and you shouldn't like push the limit to the point that you should risk your health. So it's a fine balance.
So, okay, so long term, right? Has this damaged me in any way?
Besides your ego.
Yes, besides my very deflated ego, like is my kidney, like now that I'm rehydrated and my blood works come back, now that I'm sort of well rested and I'm starting to train again, I'm back on the track every Tuesday.
Okay.
But long term, has this sort of episode affected me? Apart from that, I'm back in living.
No, I'm really great to hear that you're actually back running, because I think for most people, like after going through one of these episodes, they might really rethink about whether or not they want to go back to running.
Yeah.
So the fact that you have overcome that psychological barrier to go back to running again, that's very encouraging.
So I didn't do anything for 2 weeks. So this happened on December 3rd. I was back on the track December 19, which is like 3 Tuesdays later or something.
Right.
And then but then when I got to the track, all I did was dawdle along for 5K, do 12 laps or 13 laps or something. And then I slowed down and I just took it easy. And then I did that on the 19th. I did that, I guess, on the 24th. No, it couldn't have been 19th. And 26th, Boxing Day, I did it again.
Yeah.
And then yesterday was Tuesday again, I did my first actual workout where with intervals and 800 hard, 800 400 hard, 400 easy. So back at it, but it's still not at the same intensity as I used to.
Right.
But at least I think it's off season, just like coming out of any off season, right?
Exactly. Or the Christmas feast and all that. There's a part to play too, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Jen, for coming in. I think I'll have lots more questions for you later, but we'll keep in contact.
No, thanks for having me, and really glad that you're alive, Martin.
Yeah, and hopefully if anyone listening has this happened again, reach out. Or if you were in the race and you saw what happened to me, please reach out. I have no idea if anything. I was actually hoping that someone would come up to me, and one of my friends, and say, "Oh yeah, I saw you at the race, and are you okay now?" But no one so far. But if anyone happens to see me, I was at like a 150 to 2 hour pace on a half marathon, and I just something happened. So, but I'll thank you for your time, and I'll catch up with you another time. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin.